I call the July 6, 2021 regular meeting of council to order. Councilperson Krieger will give the invocation this evening.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Landig?
Here.
Mr. Marne?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling? Here. Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Good evening. Council, as well as Municipal Planning Commission and Board of Building and Zoning Appeals, are again welcoming the public to their meetings. The next regular meeting of council will be August 17th and will also begin at 5:30 p.m. in order to not conflict with other city events. The September 7th regular meeting will return to the normal 7 p.m. start time. Approval of minutes. Council, you received the minutes of the 15 June 2021 regular meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
The minutes of the June 15, 2021 regular meeting have been approved. Public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation, ordinance number 21-0-039.
An ordinance to authorize advances of funds and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance firstly approves a temporary cash advance from the city's general fund in the amount of $64,135, primarily to fund the Ohio EPA charging station project at Garfield Park in the amount of $50,027, and then several smaller local grant funds as noted in the staff memo are included in that advance. The applicable appropriation revisions are also included in the next section, as well as two other appropriation increases. Firstly, a $34,000 increase to the general fund for the purchase of 9 time clocks, brand new time clocks on our Chronos system that we're implementing. And secondly, a $40,000 increase in the TIF fund for appropriations on the Mentor Avenue widening project. And I recommend approval of the entire ordinance. Thank you.
Council, what is your pleasure?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes. Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-0-039 has been approved. Ordinance number 21-0-040.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to SET Inc. for the Menor Avenue roadway and traffic signal improvements project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council is aware this is the city's contribution for the Trader Joe's site. I'll turn this over to Mr. Swigger.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Two bids were opened on Friday, June 25th for the Menor Avenue roadway and traffic signal improvements project. The project will widen Menor Avenue for about 500 feet to create a new left turn lane. This widening will take place on the north side of Menor Avenue. Also construct a new traffic signal at the Trader Joe's driveway. The bid package consisted of a base bid and no alternates. The two bids received for the project range from a low bid of $735,000 approximately to a high bid of approximately $819,000. It's determined that SET Incorporated of Lowellville, Ohio submitted the lowest total bid of $735,586. The engineer's opinion of probable construction costs was $780,000. And a review of the bid from SET Incorporated indicates that it's in conformance with all contract requirements. It's therefore recommended that a contract be awarded to SET, who are experienced and qualified to perform this work. Scheduled final completion date for the project is October 15th. Your approval is recommended.
Council?
I'll just, excuse me.
Mr. Flippia.
If I could just add to that, Mr. President, just a reminder, council, it's our intention to pay for this through tax increment financing. It will be followed up with legislation asking you to approve a TIF for that parcel.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes, move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-0-040 has been approved. Ordinance number 21-0-041.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to Precision Golf Construction, Inc. for the development and installation of a new green at Hole 13 at Blackbrook Golf Course and declaring emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just by give you a little background on this, and Mr. Kaminsky will tell you a little bit about the contract. For those of you who have had the pleasure of playing Blackbrook Golf Course over the last several years, you'll know that historically the 13th green has been a problem for us, keeping it alive and keeping it in playable shape. A lot of that mostly has to do with the circulation of air in the area and where that green sits. It's actually in the best shape it's been in this year, but now is right about the time where it starts to die off. So the city has a improvement that was budgeted, and I think we talked a little bit about it at the budget time, but I'll let Mr. Kaminsky tell you a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Mr. Flipiak, members of the council. As Mr. Flipiak just indicated, the health of the green is the biggest concern, and we're very pleased, to have Tim and Aaron make that green survive over these last couple of years. But the plan is to develop a new elevated green and 2 sand traps, which will replace the current distressed, disease-ridden green, with the understanding that the current green is going to stay in existence while the construction is taking place, so there'll be no disruption of play as well. The installation includes all the shaping and earthwork, drainage installation, irrigation installation, soil finishing work, seeding, and sod replacement. This is the same company that helped us with the bunker project, which turned out to be a big success. Based upon a review, we would like to award the contract to Precision Golf Construction based in Wade Hill because they've had the best bid in the development and installation of the green. And so therefore I recommend the contract be awarded to Precision Golf Construction, Inc. Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes, move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
One quick comment. Ken and Tim and your staff, I was out there a week before last, and I had 3-4 guys come up to me that I never met before in my life, tell me what great shape the course is in and how much they enjoy playing there. Then I had another 3-4 guys up there, and one of them requested stadium mustard. I said, I just had a hot dog, and there was no stadium mustard there yet, but we'll get some. So I appreciate it. Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
I'm going to vote yes, but you made the whole harder for me, Ken.
Learn to draw, Mr. Donovan.
Mrs. Dowling?
yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-0-041 has been approved. Ordinance number 21-0-042.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Mentor exempted schools to allow the schools to utilize fire department facilities for the new Mentor Fire EMT Academy program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Council, this is the same agreement that you reviewed at your last work session. Chief Searles is here to answer any questions you may still have.
Council,
You ready?
Move to suspend.
Second.
I thought he had some questions.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes, move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-0-042 has been approved. Ordinance number 21-0-043.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Dennis R. Spalding, Inc. for the purchase and installation of a Zetron Max Dual Path Fire Station Alerting application.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Chief Searles is going to tell you that we've lived with our current system for much longer than we should have. Not that it's been ineffective, it's just that it's old technology. We looked at several options over the last couple of years, and I think the best version that we thought would work for our department was in that $500,000 range. Last year, the chief, both chiefs working together, were able to identify a very nice solution. So, Chief Searles, could you bring us up to date?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. We need to do a complete overhaul of our fire station alerting, and that's what we use to tone out all 5 stations, but it's bigger than that. There's IP and other technology available that we haven't been using just because of the cost. So what we're requesting is a new fire station alerting system. As the manager mentioned, one just became available through Zetron. It's about half the cost of the system that we were watching for the last couple years. That system was just over $500,000 plus the maintenance fee. The new system is coming in at $219,325.23. It'll do everything that the MOC system does. That's a system that the county purchased. It's important to parallel our system, and I guess the key to this is knowing that Nina, our communication supervisor, is very pleased with this system, and it has expansion capabilities. And what it'll do is it'll improve how we dispatch now. Right now, we dispatch by low band radio voice. A lot of those parts for that equipment isn't available. As the manager says, it's an outdated system. So by waiting, we were able to have some cost savings and get a system that we feel is reliable. A lot of research went into this, and it has future expansion, and it will meet our needs for a long time coming and offer several enhancements. There's some smart features on it that we're not going to install right away because we feel that's better done in-house, and those are a lot like your Alexa. It'll turn off lights, it'll do timers to track how quick our personnel get out the door, but this is a system that we've been waiting for and would recommend. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Donovan.
Chief, I was driving by the fire station by Garfield Park, and I got stopped at the light, and the men were coming out to go do their job. And I saw the driver of the big truck get out and actually close the garage door. Is this going to have him a remote garage door opener and closer?
Thank you, Councilman. That's the beauty of this system. This system will not only alert our fire stations in a redundant, reliable fashion, but it also have those enhancements to control traffic lights and things that we manually have to do now.
Nice.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And Chief, as the expression goes, good things come for those who wait, and half price sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, we think
Thank
so.
you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Move to suspend.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes. Mr. Kirchner.
Yes, move to approve.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes. Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-0-043 has been approved. Second reading, there are none. Third reading, there are none. Manager's report. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 2 open cut pavement requests, Council, for your consideration. First one is at 7723 Menor Avenue. It is for a new water line service for the Starbucks restaurant, which will be locating there. Ask for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes. Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. And the second is from Aqua, Ohio. It will be located at Center Street and Edward Street. It's an open cut request for the installation of a 6-inch water main project on Fairfax Drive. And yes, they will be cutting into our newly paved road, but it will be in a location that they've already cut, right on top of the same spot, right, Mr. Swigger?
Yeah, that's the Center Street location. They have 2 on this request, so. If you know, or if you remember back when we just finished Center Street, there was a water main break right across from the high school. So, at this point, they're gonna remove that valve and disconnect the line at Center Street, but it will be in the same open cut location.
There's something about new pavements that cause water lines to break.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling? Yes. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Just a few other announcements here. We'd like to thank our residents for celebrating Independence Day and really the entire Independence Day weekend in a responsible way. We had fantastic turnout for the city celebration. The parade in the Headlands was fantastic as well. And the concert and fireworks we've received overwhelming positive response on. And I think more than anything, I'm happy to report that there were virtually no firework reported injuries or any major property damage of any type throughout the community. So we do appreciate our folks responsibly celebrating. Just a reminder to the public, and I know that Waste Management has done a good job of getting the word out, and you've seen some of the drive-by signs this week. There is no delay for our waste collection schedule, so hopefully everyone had their garbage out this morning and yesterday. The Lake County Auditor's Office is planning on certifying to the state its triennial update of all Lake County residential parcel valuations for tax collection year 2022. Expectations are that those are going to go up. Commercial and industrial property valuations are expected to remain unchanged. And then finally, Council, I know you're already aware of this, but the budget, the state budget bill was signed by the governor. And you know about the ongoing efforts that a lot of the municipalities and groups representing municipalities in Ohio were working on trying to preserve some of the refunds or trying to avoid refunds caused by the pandemic for those working at home. There was a compromise essentially, so 2020 refunds for the tax year 2020 will not be eligible for refunds, but every year thereafter, including 2021, will be. Of course, some of that is still in the court, and I'm sure there are those who are going to fight hard in the court system for 2020 yet, but right now that looks pretty good for us. We can't really gauge a true impact on what that might be. I've seen some estimates from RETA, and I've seen some estimates that were put out by Cleveland State, but really there's a give and take there, so we'll just have to see how it shakes out. There'll be some people who will be paying us, requesting for refunds who worked here in Mentor and those who worked elsewhere. So we'll just have to wait it out and see, but we don't expect it to be a significant impact. That's it.
There was one other Independence Day event, and Mr. Kaminsky's crew did a great job of serving up burgers and hot dogs for veterans at the movie. And I can tell you that the sound system makes bombs and airplanes sound very realistic. It was good. Hopefully there'll be more turnout, for future, since that was the inaugural
Yes,
veterans movie on Independence. So.
yeah, that was, of course, and I failed to mention that the Thursday prior to that, we had very nice performance by the 122nd Army Band, and they did a great job for us. That was really the kickoff of what we collectively refer to as Patriot Week here in Mentor, and the picnic went well, and I think we're hoping to continue these events, and hopefully they'll build on themselves each year, and we're going to invite the Army Band back as well, and if we could make this an annual event, I think the attendance will go up.
It was great. Well done. Thank you.
Mr. President, to echo the comments, I had several people I talked to 4th of July night, and Mr. Kaminsky, all the Mentor Rocks, police and fire, everyone that's involved, and that they were totally amazed. One person that you got to talk to today was in from Nashville, and he said he's never seen anything like that before, and he has a lot to do with big-time acts and amphitheaters and things of that nature, and he says he was truly amazed and impressed by the group effort and how well things have went off. And then also Daryl Worley, unbelievable artist. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I was always trying to watch from the back and the side, and it's amazing when you have truly professional musicians, which I have no professionalism in type of music qualities in me at all, but how they communicated and how well they played. It was just a head nod, and they changed this and changed that, but it was a great performance, and what he did at the end for the veterans was really neat. But great job by all.
Thank you.
And the AMP continues to be a real community builder. I think you get more and more comments about the activities that are done, and I know it's a lot of work, but thanks again.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting, just to pick up on what Councilman Martin said, too. It does seem that the word is getting around the recording music industry. There's an undercurrent of how well these national acts are treated, what amazing facility we have. And in fact, one of the members of Darryl Worley's band, who I was talking to a little bit after the performance, said that of all the places they go, they love coming to Ohio the most because we're the friendliest people and they get treated the nicest out here. And I said, well, Ohioans are a pretty friendly group, so they really enjoyed it. And one other thing that I think is worth mentioning, they all said that they were just totally impressed with the amount of patriotism that's shown in our community and how, you know, people are just so up on this community and their love for America. And that was nice to hear because they go everywhere.
Very good. Clerk's correspondence. Julie?
Nothing to report.
Commission committee reports. Meeting minutes, Community Arts Commission, March 4th, 2021, and April 1st, 2021. Old business. New business.
Mr. President?
Mr. Donovan.
Mr. Flippia, Aqua's doing a repair on Barbary, a water main. I'm getting a couple calls on the rehab. I guess they may be leaving, and this is hearsay, they may be leaving pieces and chunks of concrete in the grass. If they could give a little more effort, get that out of their topsoil and seed it and clean it up a little so the lawnmowers aren't hitting pieces of concrete.
Sure.
That's all I got.
Yeah, we'll take a look into
I
that.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Kirschner.
we received word that our longtime beat reporter from the News Herald, Betsy Scott, is retiring. And she's been with us, or with the News Herald, for over 20 years. I recall she was our reporter when I was on the Planning Commission back 20-some years ago. And I just wanted to congratulate her on her retirement. And we've always had a very good working relationship with her. And she's moving on to a new career, and wish her the best of luck in her new career.
Hearing no further new business, persons before council, there are none.
Mr. President,
Mr. Kirschner.
I would like to move to adjourn into executive session to conference with the law director related to pending litigation. And I further move to adjourn into executive session to consider the sale of property at competitive bidding because the premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest.
I'll second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes. As MacArthur would say, I'll be back. He is like grow every time I see him, every few days.
That's cool.
He's getting bigger
Yep.
and more animated.
Mr. President, I would move that we go back into regular council session.
Second.
Please take the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes. Mr. President, I would move to adjourn.
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.